Alright, boys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to talk about if I had to start with OFM again. Here's what I would do. Basically a beginner video. OFM, Onlyfans management, if you don't know at all what it is. Pretty much you work with creators that are on OnlyFans, you take a percentage, or you pay them a salary while you handle pretty much everything else. They just make content. So firstly, if you have literally $0 to your name, just get a job. I prefer just being realistic and just honest. Like I see so many people telling beginners, oh, even if you have $0 to name, you can still make it. Just do this and that. But the truth is, with any business, it's always best to have at least some money to your name. It's very rare for most people to actually start with completely zero, no spending at all, and end up making thousands. And this goes for most businesses. Obviously, there's some businesses where all you have to do is outreach and just you can get paid for doing marketing, and you don't really need to spend. Even in that scenario, you might have to spend money to either buy an IG account or buy IG followers, and that already counts as a cost, right? So you can't have literally $0 in name. Like I said, even if it's a very small amount, it's always best to have some money because the chances are, even if it's something very random, like I said, just buying Instagram followers for your outreach account, that's gonna cost money. And if you have literally no money to your name, if you're outreaching on some random account with 2 followers, chance of you signing a model is very low. But yeah, so next, getting a model to work with. If you have a low budget, anywhere between like only $100 to like 300, I would recommend just to do outreach. There's no point wasting all your money on one model that might not work out. Just spend some time doing outreach. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways of doing outreach. Like you could do personal account, you could do a fake model account. There's a lot of different ways, even more than I just mentioned there. But that's sort of the two main popular ones. And yeah, if you have a medium or high budget, you can do ads and or marketplaces. So marketplaces obviously do ads and then they resell those models for a high price. Obviously, the one benefit to a marketplace is you can actually pick the model you want. Whereas with ads, you're doing ads, but you don't actually. It's not like you know what model's going to DM you. Like it's sort of random. So you might get unlucky. You might spend $100 on ads just to get very low quality models only. Whereas with a marketplace, you might spend 200 to 300, maybe a little bit more, like 500. But at least you know what you're getting, right? So yeah. Now, once you have your model, it's time for onboarding. So pretty much all you need to do, obviously, you can talk about the percentage, the salary you're gonna pay, blah blah. Give it a contract. If you don't have a contract, you can make one on Chat GPT. But we also do have one in the private group. But yeah. So for onboarding, all you really need is ID/passport. This is not completely required. I just sort of recommend it. Mainly just because you always want to make sure it's becoming more of a normal thing now where agencies that can't really scale themselves, they'll sell their model, quote unquote, but it's actually them, and then they'll work with an agency that's making them money for a bit, then they'll scam them. So it's always best to ask for ID or even like a live video or even just to get on the video call for literally 5 minutes just to confirm and talk about what your plans are. And yeah, content obviously, you can't really do marketing if you don't have good content, you don't have any content at all. So obviously you have to tell her, before we do begin marketing, please send us your content. We'll review it. If we need more for marketing before we start, we'll send you content to recreate. And lastly, obviously, it's OF and social media logins. If she's brand new, obviously just get her OF login. That's it. Then you make everything else. So set everything up, accounts, niches, plan out what to do, research. This is one thing that I feel like a lot of people kind of forget to do, and I think it's a big mistake is to rush all into it. Before you actually start anything, I feel like even before you get a model, it's good to do this. But obviously, you know, even when you get a model, spend the first days doing research. If you don't have much experience and you're not too sure like what to do, just do research and then plan it out. Look at girls that look similar, or if you think, for example, you have like a MILF niche model, you can go on Reddit, you can go on Twitter, find similar looking models, do research, see what type of content works for them. Then you can get your model to recreate that kind of type of content, right? Um, and yeah, um, and even accounts, like I said, if you want to really scale fast, you can obviously need multiple accounts, and that can cost money. Um, so for example, if you want to start with, let's say, IG, you might have to buy 5 accounts or 10 accounts before you start. If you only start with like one account, obviously it's always possible to go viral with just one account and do very well. But with platforms like IG, I think it's always best to have to be starting with at least 5 accounts. So yeah, now doing research, I would pick 1 to 2 traffic sources. I want to start with that either I already have knowledge on or I think this model will perform best on. So if you're starting with you might have previous knowledge, obviously, from something that you did before. Whether you did some marketing, whether you used the app for some type of way to try and make money. You might have knowledge on Reddit, like how Reddit works, or you might have knowledge on Twitter, how the algorithm works there, or IG, or Threads, or wherever it might be. Obviously, if you have knowledge on a certain platform, it's always good to start with that type of platform if you have knowledge on it, because you'll probably perform better. But obviously, you could also go for a platform that you think that model would fit. If you, for example, you see your model's niche do very well on Reddit often, for example, like Asian egos do well on Reddit. If you have a model like that, you could obviously, think, okay, there's a lot of Asian, egos doing good on Reddit. They look similar to my model. My model can recreate this content, so I could try Reddit and see if it performs good for me. And that's sort of what I do. I would pick 1 to 2 track sources. For example, usually the things I go for currently, obviously, since I have knowledge, I know this. So like, the easiest options to start with, in my opinion, is either Reddit, Twitter, or Threads. I usually start with Twitter and Threads. Twitter takes very low amount of time to set up, very quick. And sort of same with Threads. Threads just doesn't take much time out of your day, which is why I always recommend people to do Threads as an extra traffic source. Like, if you're not doing well on it yet, just do it as an extra traffic source, because eventually you could do well. And like I said, it really doesn't take much time. You can get it doing well very fast too. But yeah, that's what I do. And obviously, once you have the traffic source ready, once you have the content ready, all of that, you start marketing. Obviously, like I said before, just because you've got content doesn't mean you shouldn't stop researching or testing. If you're not getting the results you expected, obviously you're doing something wrong. It's like, even if your model is not best looking, average looking, they can still get subscribers, right? A lot of people, of course, there is a lot of times where the model can be the issue, but a lot of the time people, they'll say it's the model's fault, or they'll complain at the model for doing this and that wrong. But a lot of the time it's also just them doing wrong things. So, like a lot of times you have to test. Just keep figuring out what content will work good for her. Keep testing out different captions, different content, even different niches. If you've been really trying to fix everything and nothing's working, maybe even your niches aren't the best for your model, and you can try to switch to something else. But yeah, once you've figured all of that out, obviously marketing's going well, but you don't have enough accounts. This is where scaling and automating comes. So scaling and automating before adding more traffic sources. Hire VAs, don't do it all yourself. Big mistake. Once it's automated, move on to other traffic sources. So one of the main mistakes that people make, including myself, and then they get stuck at like 5K a month or 10K a month, maybe even lower sometimes, is they'll just try to handle everything themselves. And guys, really, it's one of the biggest mistakes I see. Even I did this myself. Like a year ago, I used to handle a load of things myself, thinking like, oh, there's no point me getting VS for this if I can do it. But once you realize like your time isn't worthy just posting on Twitter, you should be doing like higher ROI tasks. That's when you really start seeing a difference in your revenue. Like you as the agency owner, right? Like your business should be able to make the same amount of money whether you're online or not. So yeah, it's very important to do that. But back to the start of what I was saying. Yeah, so let's say you're doing Reddit and Twitter. They're both going well. But like I said, you've not scaled it enough. So obviously, next step now is to basically get VAs, hire VAs, teach them, or you can obviously get experienced ones too. But I always say it's best to get like non-experienced ones or ones with not too much experience, but they know how it works, and to teach them your own method that's working for you. Um, and then at that point, you've obviously hired VAs, you're handling more accounts now, probably getting more traffic, and once you get it fully automated to the point where your VAs don't need your help constantly, it's just more of like a every now and then thing, then that's when you can move on to other track sources. Then you can start doing IG, and then literally like I put here and repeat. Once you get to this point in your agency where you've learned the marketing, you know how it works, you've got your VAs now doing it for you. At that point, it is literally just rinse and repeating this all the time for every single model. Obviously, like I said, testing out new things, researching new niches, all of this stuff. That's what will get you to like 100k a month mark if you keep adding more and more things. But to get to like 10k a month, 20k a month, even 50k a month, if you just have a good team with you, scaling enough Reddit accounts, scaling enough Twitter accounts, scaling enough IG accounts, and just repeating that all the time, making sure there's not many issues happening. Obviously, there's always going to be issues, but making sure there's not too many big issues all the time happening, you will very easily see, a very big increase in your revenue. So, yeah, that's literally it. That's what I would do if I had to start again from basically zero. And yeah, hope you guys learned something from this. If you are completely new to OFM, make sure to join my Telegram. I do also have a private group on Discord, as it would be the link as well in the description. Sorry, and yeah.